Okay, we're at the 5-minute mark, so I figure we should probably get started. In case you're lost, we're here today to talk about performance marketing on Snapchat. So hopefully that's what you came here for, because that's what we're going to cover today. We want to get through all the content that we've prepared for all of you today, but first some housekeeping. Definitely go ahead and send in your questions via the chat feature. We will get to them to the questions at the end of the presentation or follow up with you directly on email. We're looking at probably about 45 minutes of the actual content and presentation and probably about 15 minutes for the questions that you all submit. It is Snapchat, so let's make it fun. And, you know, we're all working from home still, so don't mind my dog if she barks or the doorbell if it rings. I'm sure you all know the drill. So who have you got here today? I'm Ashley Scorpio. I'm the VP of Partnerships at Hawke Media. So as the VP of Partnerships, I manage all of our relationships with our platform partners like Snapchat. And I'm a digital marketer myself with about a dozen years experience across traditional and digital marketing and advertising. My technical specialty is paid social media marketing and advertising across all the different channels and platforms with a focus on direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands and B2B SaaS startups. And here with me today is Holly, and I'll let Holly go ahead and introduce herself as well.
Hey guys, I'm Holly Martin. I work over here at Snapchat with what we call SMB agencies. So really what that is our more performance-based agencies and really supporting them to understand Snap's platform. A little bit about me, I actually started my career at MySpace, which I realize that dates me a little bit. And in between MySpace and Snapchat, for about 10 years worked on the agency side. So have been able to really see this space grow and evolve over the past 15 years or so.
Awesome, thank you, Holly. So without further ado, now that you know who is here, let's get into it. So for everyone who is here and anyone who didn't make it but registered, we will be sending you a recording of this session today in case you want to get into it again later or play it back. If there's a particularly interesting point you want to get into a little more and understand, so you can go through the recording. And like I said, we can also follow up on email as well if that brings up any other questions. So here's the outline of what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk a little bit about Hawke's point of view on performance. Then we're going to talk about Snapchat, of course. And then on the platform itself, scale and attention, the different ad products and the strategy, as well as some success stories, hopefully to get your creative juices flowing and to give all of you some ideas of what you can do with your own businesses and your own brands. So for Hawke's point of view on performance. So here at Hawke, we know that each business comes to us with much bigger business needs than basically oversimplified KPIs or marketing metrics can translate into or measure even. So generally speaking, we try to get a better holistic view and understanding of the business and their actual needs as a business, map those business goals to marketing goals, and then of course come up with specific metrics and campaigns to feed into those marketing goals and to roll up into those business goals. So it's just as important to create customers, new customers, as it is to increase the lifetime value of those customers, in particular through personalized content, creative offers, your message to your customers and your audience and what that might be. We also know that set it and forget it, which we all hear so often, is not a viable option. You know, that's not what anyone should be seeking or hoping to do in their campaigns. Your customers are extremely dynamic, and so is the digital space that they're navigating when they're connecting with you. So here at Hawke, we are constantly testing new channels, new strategies, and messaging, whether that's the copy, the content, the creative, And basically, we're always taking those things, we're testing, we're learning, and iterating upon those versions and just continuing to evolve and create that dynamic campaign to connect with those customers. So in case any of you don't know, Hawke Media is an award-winning digital marketing consultancy and full-service agency. We are based in LA with offices in New York and Boston. But like I said, we've all been working from home, at home, or living at work, if you will, since March. And we've actually recently made the decision to go fully remote, which is pretty exciting. So a lot of my colleagues, we've already spread all across the country. We certainly still have some pockets in those 3 cities, but we're now a fully remote company, and we offer custom data-driven digital marketing strategies and managed marketing services to businesses of all shapes and sizes. And we offer all of our services not only a la carte, but also on a month-to-month basis, which is awesome because that often makes working with an agency like Hawke a lot more accessible to smaller startups and SMBs. And we've worked with about 1,500 brands since our inception, including Verizon, Red Bull, Tamara Mellon, The Sill, and lots of other up-and-comers that you might not have heard of yet. So yeah, our marketing strategy is pretty unique and precise just based on the breadth of experience that we have. We've been in business for over 6 years now, and we started with about 7 full-time employees, and now we're over 150. So that's who we are here at Hawke, and here are some of the awesome clients that we work with. So because of who we are and because of the approach that we have when it comes to digital marketing, we leverage Snapchat as an authentic and effective channel for creating and converting customers that is scalable and efficient for performance-driven brands and advertisers. So let's get caught up on Snapchat. The W's, the what, the who, and most importantly, why. So communicating with your friends is seamless on Snapchat. Here I've laid out some of the different features of the platform: the map, the chat, the camera, community, discover. And the most important thing that you should know if you're not familiar with Snapchat is that Snap always opens to the camera first. And so it's immediately from your point of view and it's featuring you. Most other social media platforms open up to a feed and it's immediately others and their content. So Snap has been pretty unique, being first to market with AR lenses and filters. And the other interesting feature about Snapchat is just that, it's the chat. So it can be textual or visual. And of course, when I say visual, I don't just mean still image, I also mean fun, dynamic videos. The map itself is another great way to communicate with your friends. And there's also a lot of original content and series on Snapchat, which you can see here on the Discover page. So for those of you, again, who might be newer to Snapchat as a platform, as of June this year, they added new navigation to just make it more seamless to communicate with your friends, to watch all of that premium content, to explore the world around you. And for advertisers, this is a great takeaway because it gives you even more opportunities to reach this extremely leaned in, highly engaged audience. So speaking of highly engaged, again, some of you might not realize that Snapchat is actually one of the most used cameras in the world. So on average, there are over 4 billion snaps being created every single day. This is one of the go-to places that individuals flock to visually communicate with their closest friends and family. And again, this ends up meaning that Snapchat is one of the most used cameras in the world. More snaps are taken on Snapchat's camera than the total number of all pictures taken on other smartphone and digital cameras every single day. So this is absolutely huge. The audience that is on Snapchat, that is using the platform, is extremely engaged. And if you have one takeaway, and you should think about if you're a visual brand that's telling your story in that way, this is the platform for you. So the other thing you should also think about is how leaned in these users are. Part of that is because of the nature of the product. Snaps disappear, right? Especially if they're sent directly, friend to friend. And so this is another way of ensuring the user is extremely engaged when they're interacting with content. And you don't have to think so much about stopping the scroll as you would on other social platforms. So because Snapchatters are snapping all the moments in between their day-to-day and their routine, there are also over 10 billion videos that are watched every day by the Snapchat community. So beyond individuals actually leveraging the camera themselves, taking their own pictures and videos, they're also consuming an astronomical amount of content on the platform. And to that end, not only is it their own friends and family's content, there are also all of these premium shows that are curated and you can discover and interact with and consume right from that page. So there's actually over 60 shows that are fully curated within the app itself that have over 10 million viewers. So that might not be something you're aware of, but it's good to know, especially as we get into the different ad formats later in this presentation, so you can understand where they might come up in between what types of content. So most importantly, because we've talked a little bit about the platform itself and the absolutely astronomical engagement that the audience has, you should think a little bit about the average user and how they're leveraging Snapchat. So Snapchat is a place where people feel really like they can just be themselves. There's no pressure of public likes or comments like on other platforms, which is often how others measure themselves up day to day. And so this is actually, again, a huge opportunity for brands and advertisers because you're going to be able to target the real person and not who they just aspire to be or not the carefully curated version of themselves that they're putting out into the world. So you're free to be you. As you can see here on the slide, you have myself and Holly playing around with both filters and AR lenses. So again, people get fun and creative and interactive on the platform. So because of this, 95% of Snapchatters say that the app makes them feel happy. And that's really important because not all social media makes people feel happy. And this is more than any other app that has been tested. And Snapchat has specifically stood really firm in their mission to make a really positive and safe environment for their users and their advertisers. And especially in this current year, 2020, that we've all been going through collectively, that has been hopefully the last year of its kind in our lifetimes at least. I think that this couldn't be more important. A lot of us are stressed, anxious, struggling, perhaps dealing with either coronavirus itself or any of the economic fallout. So, if you can get to a place that makes you feel happy, makes you feel more connected with your friends and family, especially when you're apart, that's probably a great place to be. And especially from an advertising or brand perspective, it's important to know that people are just generally more open to new products, ideas, or services when they're happy. I mean, it's a no-brainer. There's going to be a positive brand association by discovering a brand in an environment or an app that makes you happy, especially in a brand safe environment that can yield great results. So all of that is well and good, but as we know here at Hawke, a platform's value comes with not only the scale of the users that they can reach, but how leaned in or active and engaged those users actually are. So when we look at scale on Snapchat, the platform has 238 million people using the app daily to talk to their closest friends. And that community is actually growing. So the daily active user growth accelerated to 20% year over year. And there was also increased engagement across some key metrics. So daily active users were about 229 million in Q1 2020, which was an increase of actually 39 million or 20% year over year. They also increased sequentially and year over year in North America, Europe, and the rest of the world. So again, there's a global reach and scale here. And also important to note that daily active users also increased sequentially and year over year, both on iOS devices and on Android. So there's definitely an addressable reach here across the world. Here it is listed out for you by country. As you can see, in the United States, there are over 100 million users. Obviously, the vast majority of us here today on this webinar are in North America. And so, yeah, it's good to know that you can reach over 100 million potential customers on Snapchat. And Snapchat's unique high-value audience just continues to grow around the world. So that makes the addressable reach global in nature, so you can scale your campaigns not only locally, but also globally. There's also a really high penetration in these developed markets. So Snapchat absolutely just corners the market when it comes to Gen Z, or Centennials, as I like to call them. So Snapchat actually reaches more than Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger combined. So they're also a dominant player in the 13 to 34 age group. And in that segment, Snapchat actually reaches about 75% of the US population. And as you can see here, they're also reaching 90% of that Gen Z 13 to 24-year-old segment of the population. So in the older segment of 13 to 34, that 75% is actually 4 million more than Instagram and 1 million more than Facebook. So you might not know that. And back to Gen Z for a minute, beyond the millennials, you know, the centennials are the new and interesting, exciting kids on the block. I'd say what's important to know and think about when you're advertising to Gen Z is that they haven't really made their brand decisions yet, right? They're just learning, like, adulting, and they're extremely open to new and disruptive e-commerce companies, whether it's their products or their services. And I also think when you're thinking about these younger generations, it's important to think about not only growth today, but your growth tomorrow. So this group can take brands and your business into the next 5, 10, even 20 years. So I think it's really important to build that loyalty today to take you into the future. Yeah, and the other thing to know is this audience is unique to Snapchat. So if you want to reach millennials and centennials where they are every day, you need to be on Snapchat. And just as critical as it is to achieve reach, it's about incrementality. So on any given week, Snapchatters can be found exclusively on Snapchat. So for example, 43% of Snapchatters in the US aren't on Instagram daily, and 59% aren't on Facebook daily. So if you're a brand or marketer and you're doing cross-platform promotion, Snapchat basically offers a way to get in front of those potential customers with a timely message that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get or reach them with anywhere else. And together, these two generations, millennials and centennials, they yield over $1 trillion in direct purchasing power. And this is why they're so important to your business. And then lastly, in order to drive recency, it's crucial to try and maximize the number of opportunities on any given day that you can deliver a message. And Snapchat is inherently advantaged this way because of just how much mind share Snapchat is grasping every day. So Snapchatters open the app 30 times per day on average and spend over 30 minutes from when basically they wake up, basically tip to tail throughout their entire day, to when they eat, when they commute, exercise, shop, play, and finally when they go to sleep. And all of these different checkpoints throughout their routine and throughout their day all represent opportunities to deliver a message. And beyond that, Nearly half of Snapchat users are actually impulse shoppers. So they're ready to act, which means they're susceptible to a really strong call to action. So Snapchat has a huge audience. They're extremely valuable and unique. Plus, they're using the platform throughout the day, throughout all these key activities. So you should be thinking about your brand, your product, your service, and where it could plug in naturally throughout these activities and the day. So we all know that the Snapchat audience is incredibly valuable, but now that we know that, how do you get in front of them? How do you deliver real marketing results? Well, you need to lean into your ad products and strategy. So as an agency, we see many platforms and tools as they grow and mature. And one thing that we've noticed about Snapchat basically is that they've built an extremely robust ad platform that can serve all business objectives with out-of-the-box creative, like augmented reality or AR. And over the past 2 years, Snapchat has been laser focused on continuing to build and kind of innovate and iterate on their performance stack. Some of the things they rolled out to do that were ROAS bidding, integrations with Shopify, which are obviously extremely important to any of you e-tailers out there. And then also add products that can not only get you to the cart, but also drive traffic and foot traffic to brick and mortar locations as well. So here are just some highlights of the ad platform over time and all the product development that they have done. So Snapchat basically knows that you can add tools or features to keep the user face clean and intuitive. They've done this over time as they've cleaned it up and developed it out. So this past June, they did a massive overhaul of their ads manager flow, and it became reorganized by objective, which I think makes it really easy to get started, especially if you're not a marketer, because you can kind of think about what your general objective is from a business standpoint, think about that from a marketing standpoint, and build your campaign accordingly. And then they've basically given you access to some of the best combination of different products to achieve success specifically for that goal or objective. And this lets you just get in there really quickly, identify your goal, and get on your way. So the ones that I've highlighted here, these are some of the best go-tos specifically for direct response and e-commerce brands. So there are Snap ad units for every objective, and I'm going to go through these examples so you can see what they look like as we go. So from the ads manager into the ad units, there's a ton of flexibility, as you can see here. And here at Hawke, we always take into account that these are full screen ads that are specifically built for deliberate action. And again, remember, I've mentioned this a few times now, Snapchatters are extremely leaned in, they're extremely engaged, they're communicating to each other, they're also consuming your content in your ad. So it not only gets the full screen on their phone, but it also gets their full screen attention. So these ad products range from story ads, commercials, collection ads, app install, DPA or dynamic product ads, which I've highlighted here. So let's take a look at these examples. So the first example you saw there was the story ad. It starts as a little tile on the screen alongside other popular tailored content to that specific Snapchatter's preference. These ads are 100% opt-in and they open to the full screen when the user clicks in. The second example there with Subway is a commercial. These are non-skippable ads for the first 6 seconds. It's a forced view video ad with an optional extended play up to 3 minutes. This ad basically gives you a lot of time and space to tell your brand story, which is extremely important, especially for new disruptor brands or companies or businesses that are aligned with a cause. It just gives you time to sort of get into and tell that story. The next example there, the Adidas one with the shoe, that's a collection ad. So they're actually one of my favorites specifically for e-commerce brands because they let you show and feature multiple products and variations on one screen, kind of like a catalog. And basically this just allows the user to interact with the brand and click through the different products. And also you as an advertiser can sort of test and see which SKUs are going to work with your audience or different segments of your audience. The app install, the banking example right there, there's a extremely prominently featured app install card at the bottom of the screen, as you can see. And so Snapchatters can't really ignore your call to action. It's right there. And they'll be driven to viewing the swipe up to go ahead and install your app if you're using an app install ad. And then again, pretty important for e-commerce brands, the DPA or dynamic product ads, they take us right to the bottom of the funnel as far as marketing goes. And they allow you, the brand or advertiser, to basically take the different intent signals that you have, bring the Snapchatter back to the cart that they may have abandoned, and basically close out the purchase cycle. These dynamic ads allow you to bring personalization into the platform in an automated way. So it's personalized, but it's straightforward and not extremely time intensive for you. And this just brings new ways to scale and drive impact easily. So now that you've seen what some of the ad units look like, where are they? As you can see, the ads appear in Discover Content, which I'll get into in a minute. They also appear within community content, as well as in between your friends' stories. So if you're a Snapchatter, you're open to the app, you're going through your friends' stories, you will get some of those ads in between. And you, the brand or advertiser, are going to be reaching your audience within content that matters to them and when they're more receptive to receiving your brand messages, which is important. So yeah, let's talk more about the Discover Content. So I would assume that most people on this webinar are pretty familiar with how DPA or dynamic product ads work. But simply broken down, someone visits your website, then they view a page, a category, or a product, then they abandon it or leave, they just bounce out. And then basically they're shown an ad reminding them of that intent point once they're in the Snapchat app. So in short, this is a great solution for cart recovery. So what if we thought a little bit more about somewhere else within the funnel that we could fit those dynamic ads into? So dynamic product ads are most commonly used at the very bottom of the funnel, cart recovery, cart abandonment, and trying to drive purchase or conversion. So what if we flipped that around and thought about leveraging it with prospecting audiences and net new potential customers? So if you do that and you set the audience to a prospecting audience instead of a retargeting audience, basically these dynamic ads are going to reach Snapchatters who may or may not yet have visited your website. And it's a great way to already start that demand more towards the top of the funnel. And beyond that, in the more traditional sense, of course, you can use it in a lower funnel retargeting initiative. And when you're running both of these audience segments in conjunction on this ad unit, you're able to find those net new users to develop even more robust retargeting tools, and then leverage those retargeting capabilities that exist to drive that purchase. So with dynamic ads, you can really easily leverage pre-existing templates that are designed specifically to showcase products visually. There's some examples here for you to see. And the example here is using a single creative asset to build a variety of creatives without the need for any design skills. So it's really easy for you to get started, even if you aren't native in Photoshop. And yeah, because Snapchat's audience is predisposed to actually shop on mobile, you want to make sure that you're designing the most optimal shopping experience for mobile. And so these dynamic ads are full screen. It's maximizing the real estate that you have for your images. And it's basically inviting these potential shoppers to learn more just by swiping up from the ad and going directly to your website to engage more and learn more. Here are some more examples as well with the creative and how you can automatically build these ads from catalogs. Now, how do you go ahead and set this up? So basically, it's through a combination of importing your product catalog, like you would on any other platform. Then you deploy the Snap Pixel on your website, which is just a snippet of code. And then you can run a dynamic ad campaign. So here are some ways you can onboard the catalog, either by using a feed URL directly into the business manager. And that's gonna go ahead and keep your product synced and updated daily. And then there's the direct upload option, or through a third-party app like Shopify. If your e-commerce store already runs on Shopify, that's a great option. And then in tandem with the product catalog, the Snap Pixel will then be used to target, optimize, and measure the results of your DPA or dynamic product ad campaigns. So now that we've talked about the dynamic ads, let's talk about AR because it's unique to Snapchat. So most people think of AR as purely a branding play, but now that Snapchat has added the ability to shop directly from the AR lens, it's actually a great way to try on products. So think about skincare, think about beauty, cosmetics, think about sunglasses, maybe earrings, all the different things that a user could try on with an AR lens, just having an overlay on themselves. I think especially now that people are less likely to go in store, if you do have a brick and mortar component to your business, this is a great option. And yeah, AR should be thought of as a full funnel solution for brands. So just like the video ads, it can actually be used to drive the upper funnel brand and storytelling, or even the lower funnel direct response. And basically what changes the AR ad unit from the upper to the lower funnel is the creative itself, the flighting, and also the measurement that you're leveraging. So whenever you're trying to own a moment, build awareness, or drive action, AR actually drives really strong results across all objectives, whether they're at the top or the bottom of the funnel. And now that Snapchat has launched attachments in the camera, Snapchatters can take that interaction even further and take this inspiration and turn it into action. So where your ads appear. Here's where AR lenses will appear for Snapchatters to use every day. This is right in that camera that the app opens up to right away that we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. And now that we know the audience is so valuable and we know where the ads land, how do we get in front of Snapchatters to drive real marketing results? I'm gonna focus on e-commerce online sales here, since that is our specialty at Hawke Media. So, as mentioned here at Hawke, we really like that Snapchat gives us the opportunity to think outside the box. We can market at every single stage of the funnel. We can go ahead and match a specific business goal with a marketing goal and objective, and then a corresponding ad unit. Some of the key areas of the funnel that you can use Snapchat for are awareness, consideration, and of course, conversion. And as you can see, these are the objectives, corresponding actions, metrics, and ad units. Website conversion specifically is a great direct response option for e-commerce brands. So you can see I've selected that here. And then these are some of the strategic levers that you can pull, whether it's audiences, content, ad types, or bid strategy. And I'm gonna get further into each of these. So reaching your audience. So predefined audiences basically let you reach individuals based on their interests and behaviors. So Snap already goes ahead and builds and packages them using Snapchat and third-party data, which allows advertisers to access really trusted data providers like Datalogix, Nielsen, Comscore, and Experian. And Snapchat, of course, also has its own first-party interest or behavioral targeting, and that's just based on Snapchatters' behaviors in the app and the location data that the app collects, because a lot of Snapchatters actually have their location on. And these are referred to as lifestyle categories, Snapchat lifestyle categories, or SLCs. There's over 3,000 of these, so it's extremely robust. It's right there for you to use. And then the only thing that I would recommend is that if you're specifically targeting a younger demographic that's 17 or younger, you should probably default to those SLCs, since third-party data providers are primarily 18 and up. You can also, of course, leverage custom audiences. That data would come from Snap Audience Match, Snap Engagement Audiences, Pixel Custom Audiences from that pixel you put on your site, and of course, any lookalike audiences, or LALs as they're often abbreviated to. You can, of course, choose the devices. We talked a little bit earlier about growth across iOS and Android. You can include the operating system, the device make, the connection type, and the carrier. So especially if you have a product that's specific, let's say you're selling iPhone cases, you only want to reach iPhone users, that might be useful targeting information for you. And then, of course, you can target based on location. So you can target by city or even by DMA, which is a designated market area. So content is king. You should create multiple interactions. Snapchat already has a really amazing tool built in called Snap Publisher. It's within the ad platform. It allows you to create all those different creatives and integrate assets you already have. I think it's really important to be playful. So the content, when it's fun and funny, it encourages users to interact with it, to swipe up, to snap it, to share it with friends. And this is just going to go ahead and broaden your reach and impressions. You should create content that's specific to Snapchat, that's short and punchy for mobile. You can do it in a story format, so it could be 3 to 20 snaps in a row if you want to. Definitely mix it up. You should consider a mix of UGC and branded content, lots of behind the scenes content, unboxings, make it raw, make it authentic. This should be like an unpolished version of your brand. It's really great if the talent is just looking directly at the camera and speaking directly to the camera. The user then kind of feels like they're speaking directly to them. And then tell the Snapchatter what to do. Have an extremely clear call to action and don't hide it. Like tell them again, and then tell them again. So yeah, I think that's what you should think about when you're creating your content calendar for Snapchat. So here are some of the better together ad products. Better together because it's better to mix up your ad unit mix as well. So one of the #1 things that we notice when we audit client accounts is just how many of them are just using only one ad product. And like most platforms, Snapchat is an environment where users are consuming content in many different ways. So it makes even more sense for you to test it out, mix it up, and try multiple ad products and use them throughout the customer journey. So once you've figured out your content, your creative, your objective, your ad unit, it brings you to your bid strategy. So you should play around with your bid strategy. Sometimes a page view could drive lower CPAs because there's less competition in that auction. You should always be looking at the different signals that the Snapchat ads platform is giving you. You should certainly think about split testing so you can balance and scale. One thing that you should also think about is if you're newer to the market and you don't really know what your typical cost per is, what you're usually going to be budgeting for because you're new or you've just launched, you should definitely think about starting with auto bidding. And then once you get some good data and some good numbers that's actionable that you can make decisions based off of, then perhaps move into a target bid. And target cost basically tells Snapchat to make their best effort to keep your average CPA at or below the bid amount set by the ad end date. And then of course there's also max bid, which tells Snapchat what the absolute maximum amount that they can bid, while it tries to basically achieve the most efficient CPA within that range. And you can enter a bid value and use the suggested bid range as guidance. The other thing I would note that when you're thinking about your budget and you're planning and you're doing your bid strategy is to think a little bit about frequency cap. So you can cut down how many impressions of an ad one individual user is going to get. However, you should know that if you have an extremely restrictive frequency cap, X many impressions per week versus per day, for example, it could definitely impact your overall delivery. So if you're starting to notice that your spend is kind of going up and down throughout a flight, then there's a chance that your frequency cap is basically preventing the full spend that you've budgeted for that campaign. And in that situation, you would probably want to remove the frequency cap or make it less stringent so you can kind of open up more of that ad spend. So all of those are different ways that you can reach and bid on your audience on Snapchat and how they work. And there are definitely hundreds of examples that demonstrate the return on investment that Snapchat has driven for so many brands. So here are a few. Number one thing to know and realize is that Snapchat can deliver a $3 return on ad spend, which is actually 20% higher than digital norms, which are typically around $2.45. This is important to note. Another great reason to use Snapchat, test it out, and make it a bigger part of your marketing mix. You've seen this ad before, the app install ad for the bank. Their goal was to diversify their portfolio, engage some new users who aren't as active on other platforms. And here, Snapchat basically helps Starling Bank to efficiently drive app installs and reach their target audience at scale. As you can see from here, 17% of all paid app installs were driven by Snapchat and 61% lower CPI compared to other platforms. And of course, that's the cost per install, CPI. So Snapchat also drives extremely efficient cost per acquisition for mobile apps. Here's another example for you of Depop. They increased their ad spend on Snapchat by 3% after generating a 77% lower cost per acquisition on Snapchat than any other platform. It also drives lifetime value, or LTV, for mobile apps. Here's a great example of that. Playtika saw a 12% higher LTV and a 15% higher first-time depositor rate on Snapchat than it saw from other platforms. So again, great solution not only for e-commerce brands, but also for apps. And this is another example that I love, great brands. So the e.l.f. Cosmetics ran their e.l.f. Amazing campaign, and this tapped into their millennial and centennial, their Gen Z audience, and let them gain really efficient share of market and share of voice. And basically they incorporated Snap and dynamic ads to further optimize the personalized ads that they had for their customers. And they were able to drive a 20% increase in site visitation compared to the previous quarter, and a 39% increase in CPM efficiency compared to the previous quarter as well. The reason I love this example so much is, one of the biggest campaigns that ever went viral on TikTok was actually another e.l.f. campaign, and that was the Eyes, Lips, Face campaign. And I think it's important to see here that e.l.f. actually went ahead and ran another campaign in a similar time frame on Snap. And again, that just speaks to how important Snapchat should be within your mix, how it's not necessarily an or, it's an and it should always be a part and present in your campaign, especially if you're trying to reach this demographic. It's extremely effective. Here they drove over 20% in the site visits, like I said, and even the CPM efficiency. So again, Snapchat is a fantastic platform to reach Gen Z and millennials. And here's another example for you in the e-commerce space, Princess Polly. They did a conversion campaign. They saw a 66% decrease in cost per purchases, so absolutely astronomical. And as you can see, over 171% increase in return on ad spend, or ROAS. You can see here what their digital marketing manager had to say, just rave reviews. And so again, this is definitely a platform you should be leveraging for your e-commerce brand. So some key takeaways, if there's anything that you get out of this presentation: Snapchat has a fast-growing, highly engaged, leaned in, and intent-driven audience. You can also reach a core demographic that is exclusively on Snapchat. Like we talked about, on any given day, there is an astronomical amount of users that are on this app rather than any other. In addition to that, those users are happy on the platform, so there's a positive brand association that you can leverage. And as we saw, especially given all the product updates they made, it's an extremely robust channel with serious capabilities that can drive amazing results for your brand. It's also just a great outlet that's really fun and authentic for you and your customers. So I know we're getting tight on time. I want to make sure we can get to some questions. To wrap this all up, Snapchat is a really cool, camera, it has fun filters, it has those AR lenses for you and your environment. It's for real friends to communicate to their closest friends and family. And again, because it is still the best way for people to visually communicate with each other, it should be incremental. It should be a place where you incrementally reach Snapchatters beyond other platforms. And there are lots of different ways to reach, what is often called the Snapchat generation using Snapchat's creative ad formats. So no matter what objective you have and what part of the funnel you're looking to fill, here at Hawke Media and of course our partner Holly at Snap, we're always here to partner with you on a solution and basically go ahead and drive those results that you're looking for. And so yeah, on that note, I would love to invite Holly to join me up here and answer some of your questions.
Hey guys, again, want to say thank you for everyone who has come to this webinar. Obviously, you can see why Hawke has been a great partner for Snapchat and honestly a great partner for me to work with. So let's get to some of your questions. Okay, what if I don't have images to pull from my website to create a compelling ad? Great question. So as Ashley alluded to and showed many examples of, creative is very important on Snapchat because it is full screen and there is a very leaned in audience. So because of that, we've actually provided a tool within Ads Manager. It's called Snap Publisher. There's a few things that you can do in there. You can, number one, take any horizontal videos that you have and convert them to vertical. You can create sort of net new ads that from different templates that we have provided in there. And you can also create different iterations of maybe some assets that you already have in spec. So one of the things I always tell anyone that I'm working with, either from the agency side or direct advertisers, is I am not a creative human being. I am Excel. I am a numbers human. And I have used Snap Publisher and it is very, very easy for me. So if it's easy for me, then it's pretty much easy for everybody. Okay, next question. Let me see here. How can we import an email list to create custom audiences? Yeah. So Ashley had mentioned creating custom audiences. One of the things, this is actually, again, within Ads Manager, really simple. So basically, it's going to provide you the ability to easily upload any of your customer lists. If you look in our For Business section, there's actually a very easy template that you can see in there of how to follow. But again, as you're in Ads Manager, if that's a thing that you want to do, which I absolutely suggest to sort of have that seeded audience, it's within there and you can easily upload any CSV list that you have. Another thing I really want to add into that is, especially for you performance advertisers, number one, as you get started, make sure you place that pixel. Make sure, can't say it enough. That should be sort of your step one so that we, or the algorithm over here at Snapchat, can start sort of generating those audiences. And that way you get started off on a really strong foot for your seed audience. And then you can also, again, tap into that sort of widest relevant audience that Ashley had mentioned. Okay. How long do you recommend running an ad campaign before you start changing or optimizing it? Okay, so we really recommend that you wait until the ad set has at least, I want to say like 30 to 50 conversions that align with your bid goal. This again is going to give the platform multiple data points to sort of look at before you sort of make those optimizations. Again, you want to really give any of these platforms sort of time to understand sort of your specific audience, how they are reacting to your ads before you go in there and start making a bunch of changes. Me, as sort of living in this space for way too long, I am a big proponent of the test and learn strategy. But as you start to see sort of these little pockets of audience that are starting to really relate to your advertising, that you sort of take them out and do little test and learn strategies, throw a little bit of budget at it, see, you know, how much you can sort of scale that until it hits its threshold. That's one of the things that honestly I really love about Hawke Media, is that they really do continually test and, you know, understand where your audience is going to be and ultimately like where it could grow to. Okay, oh, always the pricing question. Love it. How does pricing on Snapchat work? Okay, so number one, for the most part, say about 90% of the ad revenue that we do is auction based. There are some reach and frequency and IO, but again, as performance marketers, you're going to live within the auction. Sure, if any of you've run any advertising, you've run into an auction in your days. And so really the mechanics of it is that the exact cost is really going to be based on your decisions. So what size audience are you picking? Which within Ads Manager, you're going to see sort of on that right navigation, the full reach of the audience choices that you have made, your budget, the duration of the campaign, and your bid goals. So those are all going to be variables that make up sort of the ultimate cost or CPM that you would end up paying. Now, with that being said, the question always comes up after this one. So how little can I sort of spend? Or is there a minimum? Nice way to put that. On Snapchat, you can spend as little as $5 a day. Do I recommend that? No, not if it makes sense for your doesn't make sense for your business and ultimately your business goals. Again, and Ashley said this multiple times because it's important to really sort of make a strategy up front of what does your business need ultimately, and then create a plan from there, and that would actually dictate your spend. Okay, so another budgeting question. Can you set a daily budget, and how does that work if you can? Yes, absolutely. So there are sort of two options whenever you're looking at budget. You can either set a budget that is a daily budget. So literally within, I'm going to say this is like the first screen that you get into within Ads Manager. At the bottom of it, after you've picked your objective that actually showed that screen, you're going to be able to pick if you want to either set a budget based on daily spend or you want to place it based on lifetime spend. Again, that is really going to be up to you and sort of what your business needs are and your marketing budgets and sort of how those flow. You know, I really don't have a pure hard recommendation between the two. Again, that's going to kind of be up to you and your overall strategy. Well, I think we have time maybe for one more question. Let's see here. How can I maximize my audience through Snapchat? Great question. Really like the maximize part on that. So during your campaign creation, again, and I mentioned this before, so as you're making your targeting selections, there's going to be this panel on the right side that shows you the estimated reach of your selections. So when you're making those selections, you want to be very conscious of the size of the audience that you're looking at. If I sort of thinking about this from my recommendations, I like to play the balance game, especially for performance advertisers. You know, you can always really stay in that lowest funnel and that very, very conservative of your CRM list or your pixels, and that's great. And that is going to get you performance very quickly. But Snapchat actually does, and Ashley mentioned this, have a very unique audience. So if you sort of came in with these preconceived notions of exactly who your audience is sort of globally, that could be actually very different on Snapchat. So my recommendation is always, again, place that pixel, like I said, create your bring in your CRM list if you have one, and that's going to be sort of your baseline. And then I always tell everyone, number two, like kind of make a site that is your widest relevant audience. That's for two reasons. Again, number one, you're going to be able to see what that audience really looks like on Snapchat using our Audience Insights tool. And because of the way that the auction works, since you are going after a wider pool of audience, that can actually lower your overall eCPM. So that balance is going to give you a really efficient and scalable way to look at your campaign and to use those levers that Ashley had talked about. And we are at time. I want to be very conscious of everyone's schedule. So please, please, please continue to send in your questions, and Ashley and I will work on getting those answered for you as soon as possible. And I'm going to pass it over to her for sort of the closing housekeeping items.
Definitely, yeah. Just wanted to thank everyone again for coming. As a reminder, we will be sharing a recording of the presentation with all of you. And if there are any questions you have that we didn't get to or that Holly didn't get to answer, thank you so much, Holly. You can always feel free to shoot us a note at partnerships@hawkemedia.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you, everyone.
See you soon.
Bye.